Every single morning across America, 96 million adults wake up with blood sugar levels that are quietly destroying their bodies. Not high enough to be called diabetes, not low enough to be called healthy. They sit in that gray zone doctors politely label prediabetes, and most of them have no idea that this label is the single most important warning their body will ever give them. If you are over 55 and you have been told your blood sugar is a little high, borderline, or something to watch, I need you to stop what you are doing and listen carefully. Because what I am about to tell you in the next 20 minutes contradicts almost everything mainstream nutrition has told you about reversing this condition. And the proof is not theoretical. The proof is sitting in my own medical chart. 3 years ago, my fasting glucose was 118. My A1C was 6.2. My doctor handed me a printed sheet of paper, the same printed sheet she hands every patient, and on it were 2 instructions: cut carbohydrates and lose weight. That was it. 12 minutes of consultation, a $340 bill, and a piece of paper telling me to stop eating bread. I did not follow that advice. And 14 months later, my fasting glucose was 88. My A1C was 5.3. I had eaten oats, potatoes, rice, fruit, and beans almost every single day during that period. I want you to subscribe to this channel right now and hit that like button, because what I am going to share with you next is the exact protocol I used, the exact foods I ate, and the exact reason why the just cut carbs advice is failing millions of people over 55. We are building this channel on one principle. The system makes money when you stay sick, not when you get better. Every subscriber moves us closer to changing that. Let me be direct with you about something. Prediabetes is not a mild condition. It is not almost diabetes the way someone is almost late. It is the active, ongoing damage of your blood vessels, your kidneys, your eyes, and your peripheral nerves happening right now before the official diagnosis arrives. Research published in the journal Diabetes Care has demonstrated that nerve damage, what we call peripheral neuropathy, begins during the pre-diabetic stage in roughly 30% of patients, not after diabetes is diagnosed. During the warning stage, the tingling in the feet, the slow healing cuts, the blurred vision after meals, these are not symptoms of future disease. They are symptoms of current damage. And here is what nobody tells you in that 12-minute appointment. After 55, your body's relationship with blood sugar fundamentally changes. The muscle mass that once acted as a sugar sink, pulling glucose out of your bloodstream and burning it for energy, declines by 1 to 2% every single year. The pancreatic beta cells, the small specialized cells that produce insulin, lose efficiency at a measurable rate. The liver's ability to regulate glucose production overnight diminishes. None of these changes are addressed by the simple instruction to cut carbs. In fact, the carb-cutting approach can accelerate muscle loss in adults over 55, which makes the underlying problem worse, not better. Now, let me explain exactly what is happening inside your body when you eat. Every time food enters your stomach, it triggers a cascade of events. Carbohydrates break down into glucose molecules. Glucose enters your bloodstream. Your pancreas releases insulin, a hormone that acts like a key, unlocking the doors of your muscle cells, liver cells, and fat cells so glucose can enter and be used or stored. In a healthy system, this works beautifully. In an insulin-resistant system, which describes the overwhelming majority of pre-diabetic adults over 55, the keys no longer fit the locks properly. The glucose cannot enter the cells efficiently. It backs up in the bloodstream. The pancreas senses this backup and pours out more insulin, trying harder to force the doors open. For years, sometimes decades, this elevated insulin keeps blood sugar in the normal range, hiding the problem on standard tests. Then, eventually, the pancreas exhausts itself. Insulin production falters, blood sugar rises, the diagnosis arrives. Here is the critical insight that mainstream medicine systematically refuses to address. Insulin resistance is not primarily caused by eating carbohydrates. It is caused by fat accumulation inside the muscle cells and liver cells, what researchers call intramyocellular and intrahepatic lipid. A study published in the journal Cell Metabolism demonstrated that just a single day of high-fat eating measurably increases insulin resistance in muscle tissue. Meanwhile, populations consuming 70% or more of their calories from carbohydrates, including traditional Okinawans, rural Chinese populations, and the Tarahumara of Mexico, have historically shown some of the lowest diabetes rates ever measured. The mechanism is real, the science is established, and yet your doctor will hand you a paper telling you to cut bread. Why? Let me tell you exactly why. The healthcare system is not built to reverse prediabetes. It is built to manage diabetes once it arrives. There is no billing code for teaching a patient how to combine foods properly. There is no insurance reimbursement for a 90-minute nutrition education session. There is, however, generous reimbursement for prescribing metformin, ordering quarterly A1C tests, and managing the cascade of complications that follow when the disease progresses. The pharmaceutical industry alone generates over $80 billion annually from diabetes treatment in the United States. There is no equivalent revenue stream for pre-diabetes reversal. So you get the paper. Cut carbs, lose weight, come back in 6 months. And when you come back, having dutifully eliminated bread, pasta, and potatoes, your numbers are usually slightly worse because you replaced those foods with cheese, processed meats, and refined oils that drove fat accumulation in your muscle cells. The doctor shakes her head, mentions that prediabetes is progressive, and starts the conversation about medication. I have watched this pattern play out hundreds of times. Patients who have tried keto, patients who have done intermittent fasting until they were exhausted, patients who eliminated every grain from their kitchen and watched their numbers climb anyway. They blame themselves. They believe they lacked discipline. The truth is, they followed bad advice consistently. Now let me tell you about Margaret. Margaret is 61 years old, a retired school teacher from outside Cleveland. She came to me 18 months ago with a fasting glucose of 122 and an A1C of 6.4, sitting right on the border of formal diabetes diagnosis. She had been following a low-carb diet for 2 years. She had eliminated bread, pasta, rice, fruit, and beans. She ate eggs, cheese, meat, and non-starchy vegetables. She had gained 11 pounds during those 2 years, and her cholesterol had risen significantly. She arrived in my office convinced she was doing everything right and could not understand why her body was betraying her. I asked Margaret to do something that initially terrified her. I asked her to add carbohydrates back into her diet. Specifically, the carbohydrates I will describe in the next section of this video. Within 3 weeks, her fasting glucose dropped to 104. Within 3 months, her A1C was 5.7. Within 7 months, her A1C was 5.4, fully out of the pre-diabetic range, and she had lost 14 pounds without counting a single calorie. Today, 18 months later, her A1C remains 5.3 and she eats oatmeal for breakfast every morning of her life. Margaret's transformation is not unique, it is repeatable, and I am going to walk you through exactly how to do it. Before I continue, I need you to do one thing for me. Write your age in the comments below. I want to see which age group makes up the majority of our viewers, because the protocols I cover will be calibrated to the demographic that is actually watching. If you are over 55, your metabolism behaves differently than someone in their 30s, and future videos will reflect that. So tell me, how old are you? Now here is your complete protocol. I am going to be extremely specific because vague advice produces vague results. The foundation of carbohydrate-inclusive blood sugar reversal rests on 4 principles: food selection, food sequencing, food timing, and movement integration. Each principle has specific parameters. Follow them as described. Principle 1, food selection. The carbohydrates you include must be what nutritional researchers call intact or minimally processed. This means the cellular structure of the food is still largely preserved, slowing glucose absorption dramatically. Your foundation foods are these: whole rolled oats, not instant, not steel-cut quick varieties, but old-fashioned rolled oats, approximately 50 to 80 grams dry weight per serving, which is 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup. Cooked legumes, including lentils, black beans, kidney beans, chickpeas, and split peas, approximately 150 to 200 grams cooked weight per serving, which is roughly 3/4 of a cup to 1 full cup. Whole intact grains, including barley, farro, and wheat berries, approximately 150 grams cooked weight per serving. Cold cooked potatoes, yes, cold, I will explain in a moment, approximately 150 to 200 grams. And whole fresh fruit, especially berries, apples, pears, and citrus, 2 to 3 servings per day, where 1 serving is 1 medium piece or 1 cup of berries. Here is what makes this approach work physiologically. When you cook starchy foods like potatoes, rice, or pasta and then refrigerate them for at least 12 hours, a process called retrogradation occurs. The starch molecules reorganize into a form called resistant starch, which behaves more like fiber than sugar. Research published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition demonstrated that cooled and reheated potatoes produce up to 40% less glucose elevation than freshly cooked potatoes. The same applies to rice and pasta. Cook large batches, cool them thoroughly, reheat as needed. The retrogradation is preserved through gentle reheating. Principle 2, Food sequencing. The order in which you eat foods within a meal dramatically affects your blood sugar response. A study from Weill Cornell Medical College demonstrated that consuming vegetables and protein before carbohydrates within the same meal reduces post-meal glucose elevation by approximately 37% and reduces insulin response by approximately 50%. Same foods, same calories, different order, massively different metabolic effect. The sequence is this. First, eat your vegetables, especially leafy greens, broccoli, cabbage, or any non-starchy vegetable. 2 to 3 minutes of just vegetables. Then, eat your protein and any fats, whether that is fish, chicken, eggs, tofu, or yogurt. 2 to 3 minutes of protein. Then, and only then, eat your carbohydrates. This sequence creates what researchers call the fiber barrier and protein priming effect, slowing carbohydrate absorption through the small intestine and preparing your pancreas to release insulin in a measured, controlled way rather than a panicked surge. Principle 3. Food timing. Your insulin sensitivity follows a daily rhythm. In adults over 55, this rhythm matters enormously. Insulin sensitivity is highest in the morning and early afternoon, then declines significantly after approximately 6 p.m. This means the same bowl of oatmeal produces a smaller blood sugar response at 8 a.m. than at 8 p.m. Front-load your carbohydrates. Eat the majority of your starches at breakfast and lunch. By dinner, shift the balance toward vegetables, protein, and healthy fats, with smaller carbohydrate portions or none at all. Also, leave at least 12 hours between your last meal at night and your first meal the following morning. This overnight fasting window allows liver glycogen to deplete and improves morning insulin sensitivity. If you finish dinner at 7 p.m., do not eat again until at least 7 a.m. This is not restrictive fasting. This is simply respecting the natural rhythm of your metabolism. Principle 4. Movement integration. This is the single most underutilized intervention in prediabetes reversal, and it costs nothing. After every meal containing carbohydrates, walk for 10 to 15 minutes. Not a leisurely stroll, a purposeful walk at moderate pace. Research published in the journal Sports Medicine showed that even 2 to 5 minutes of walking after eating reduces post-meal blood sugar elevation by 12 to 22%. 10 to 15 minutes amplifies this effect substantially. The mechanism is direct. Your contracting muscles pull glucose out of your bloodstream without requiring insulin. The cellular doors that resist insulin still open in response to muscle contraction. This is exercise medicine in its purest form. Now let me walk you through exactly what a day on this protocol looks like. This is the daily schedule I followed, the schedule Margaret followed, the schedule that produced reversal in dozens of patients over 55. Morning. Upon waking, drink a full 16-ounce glass of room temperature water, approximately 500 milliliters. Wait 30 minutes before eating. During these 30 minutes, perform any form of gentle movement, whether that is light stretching, a short walk, or simple household activity. For breakfast, prepare what I call the foundation bowl. Take 60 grams of whole rolled oats, that is approximately 2/3 of a cup, and combine with 250 milliliters of water, approximately 1 cup. Cook over medium heat for 5 to 7 minutes, stirring occasionally until the oats are softened but still hold their structure. Remove from heat. Add 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and 1/2 cup of fresh or frozen berries. Top with 2 tablespoons of chopped walnuts. The combination matters. The cinnamon improves insulin sensitivity through a documented mechanism affecting glucose transporters. The flaxseed and walnuts provide healthy fats and fiber that slow glucose absorption. The berries deliver polyphenols that further moderate the glycemic response. After breakfast, walk for 10 to 15 minutes. Outside if weather permits, indoors if not. Pace should be brisk enough that conversation requires slight effort but remains possible. Mid-morning, if hungry, eat 1 medium apple with 1 tablespoon of natural almond or peanut butter. Drink water throughout the morning, aiming for an additional 16 to 24 ounces. Lunch. Construct the meal in this sequence. Start with a large salad, approximately 3 cups of mixed greens with cucumber, tomato, and bell pepper, dressed with 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil and lemon juice. Eat this first, completely, before moving to the next component. Then, eat your protein, approximately 100 to 130 grams of grilled chicken, fish, tofu, or 4 ounces of cottage cheese. Finally, eat your carbohydrate, 1 cup of cooked lentils or 3/4 of a cup of barley or 3/4 of a cup of cooked and cooled and reheated potato. After lunch, walk for 10 to 15 minutes. Afternoon, if hungry, eat 1 serving of fresh fruit and a small handful of almonds, approximately 15 nuts. Dinner. Same sequencing principle. Vegetables first, then protein, then a smaller carbohydrate portion. For instance, a generous serving of roasted vegetables, 130 grams of baked salmon or other fish, and 1/2 cup of cooked and cooled and reheated rice or quinoa. Notice the carbohydrate portion at dinner is smaller than at lunch. This respects the evening decline in insulin sensitivity. After dinner, walk for 10 to 15 minutes. Then no further food until breakfast the following morning. Evening, herbal tea is fine. Water is fine. No snacks, no caloric beverages. The overnight fast begins. I want to address timeframes for results so you have realistic expectations. Within the first week, most people notice reduced afternoon energy crashes and reduced cravings. Within 2 to 3 weeks, fasting glucose typically begins to decline, usually by 5 to 15 points. By 6 to 8 weeks, the changes become substantial. By 3 to 4 months, A1C typically reflects meaningful improvement, often dropping from 6.0 to 6.4 down to 5.5 to 5.8. Full reversal generally requires 6 to 12 months of consistent application. Now, I need to give you several important warnings before you implement this protocol. If you are currently taking medications for blood sugar, including metformin, glipizide, glyburide, insulin, or any other anti-diabetic medication, this protocol can lower your blood sugar significantly. You must work with your prescribing physician to monitor your levels and adjust dosages appropriately. Do not discontinue or modify prescribed medications without medical supervision. The interventions described here work alongside medical treatment, not instead of it. Also, certain symptoms require immediate medical evaluation, not self-management. Sudden severe thirst combined with frequent urination and unexplained weight loss can indicate progression to type 1 or advanced type 2 diabetes requiring urgent care. Blurred vision that develops suddenly, confusion, fruity-smelling breath, or extreme fatigue requires emergency evaluation. Numbness, tingling, or wounds on your feet that are not healing within normal timeframes require evaluation by a podiatrist or your physician. These are not symptoms to manage with diet alone. Additionally, the protocol described applies to functional prediabetes without complicating conditions. If you have type 1 diabetes, late-stage type 2 diabetes with significant beta cell loss, kidney disease, gastroparesis, or a history of pancreatic disease, you require individualized medical guidance. The general protocol is not sufficient for complex metabolic conditions. Now, the most important thing I want you to hear before we close. You are not helpless in front of your own biology. The story you have been told, that prediabetes is a one-way slide toward inevitable disease, that carbohydrates are your enemy after 55, that medication is the only real answer, is not true. It is a story that serves the system, not you. The body that produced the warning is the same body that can resolve the warning when given the right inputs in the right order at the right times. What you have learned today is not folk medicine. It is not speculation. The food sequencing research is published in peer-reviewed journals. The resistant starch findings are documented in clinical nutrition literature. The post-meal walking research is well established in sports medicine. The carbohydrate-rich populations with low diabetes rates are documented in decades of epidemiological data. The information exists, it simply does not exist in a 12-minute office visit because there is no billing code for it. Or, if this video helped you, do 2 things. First, send it to someone you care about who is sitting in that pre-diabetic gray zone right now, perhaps a sibling, a spouse, a friend who keeps mentioning that their numbers are borderline. You may have just given them a real chance to reverse what they have been told is irreversible. Second, subscribe to this channel and hit the like button. We are working toward 100,000 subscribers because the more people hear this message, the harder it becomes for the system to keep selling the old story. And before you go, remember to write your age in the comments. I read them. Future videos will reflect what you tell me. The next video in this series will cover the specific exercise protocols for adults over 55 that further amplify insulin sensitivity, including a 12-minute routine you can do at home without equipment. Your blood sugar is a signal. Your pancreas is not your enemy. Your body is not broken. It is asking for different inputs than the ones it has been receiving. Give it those inputs in the order I described, at the times I described, with the movement I described, and watch what your body is capable of doing. Margaret did it at 61. I did it at 56. Thousands of others have done it. You can do it too. I will see you in the next video.